I'm here with Dr. Noor Mazhar, who has, I'm proud to say, been with us since we began Warnborough University in 1997. And thank you very much for allowing me to spend time with you today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You have created some programs that we are now running, and I'd like you to tell us a bit about those.
Right. There's the Sociology of Literature, which basically looks at the relationship between society and literature, the reciprocal relationship. And then there's the History of Ideas, which I particularly like. I think it's very interesting because it looks at how a story has evolved and its contact with other ideas. It's a diachronic study through time. I find that fascinating. And then, of course, my PhD was in Italian, and I speak the language. I live here, so I've done 3 programs about Italy. One is on the literature, one looks at generally the history and the civilization, and another one is just Italian history.
And why do you think somebody would want to choose to do, why would somebody choose between, say, just Italian or Italian literature?
Because the Italian literature is more specifically dealing just with the literature. The other one would be looking at the civilization, the art, the culture, the civilization. For example, I take into account Cesare Beccaria, whose fundamental work was about crime and punishment, and it had a tremendous impact. It influenced the statutes and all sorts of legal legislation all over the place. So that would fit in, for example, into the Italian studies, which is more general.
Oh, fantastic. In terms of the programs that we're running, they are done by distance learning.
Yes.
So what type of students do you think would find these programs appealing?
I think people who are in full-time work, they can't afford the time to attend a traditional university. And this allows them to change the timings and to do it at their own speed and their own pace. And I think also the costs are lower than the traditional university. And my programs in particular, I've tried to make them very flexible so that they can appeal to different people.
Well, I know from working in administration that you've always had very, very good reviews from your students,
Thank you.
Which is very nice to see. Can you share with us some of the situations your students have come up with in terms of their research?
For example, I think David Hopkins was looking at English, American, German and French literature, for example. I think that's also very interesting when it's interdisciplinary. I think that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
There was another one who looked at the Trojan War, the Greeks and the Trojans, who was right, and he looks at it through the literature, the philosophy, the history of Greece. I think that's fascinating too.
Mm-hmm. So what qualities do you think a student would need to exhibit in order to complete a distance learning program successfully?
I think first of all, you have to be interested in the subject. If you're interested, then you don't mind all the hard work that's necessary because you have to do a lot of reading. If a normal course of study is reading a book, here you are writing the book. It's difficult, but it's incredibly satisfying. You're contributing something original to human thinking and human knowledge. The other thing is I think they have to be fairly independent and be willing to work hard. I'm there to support them and help them. I tell all of them, think of me as a friend, I'm here to help you. But they themselves have to be hardworking and I think enterprising as well.
Have you had any situations where a student has become sort of stuck or unable to go on or has lost motivation? And if so, what have you said or done with them in order to push them forward?
So far nobody, fortunately. No, they've all... but if it happened, I would look at the work and, quite honestly, if it's good and the quality is good, I would tell them, I would try to encourage them. You've come so far, it's a pity to drop it now. Just keep going, you can do it.
So what types of students do you think would be interested in the History of Ideas and the Sociology of Literature programs?
It could be a very wide range of people. For example, someone who's interested in psychology. Literature has so many examples of human behavior and in fact of life in so many areas. And in particular, the sociology of literature. For example, take Charles Dickens. He gave us such vivid pictures of his times that people refer to them as the Dickensian times. So it helps you to learn more about society. At the same time, if you're interested in literature, it helps you to see the relationship with society. How has a writer been influenced by the world he lives in? Does he have a chance of changing society through his works? I find that's very interesting. And of course the history of ideas is fascinating, how an idea is going to evolve through time, its contact with other ideas. That's fascinating too.
Well, I'm pleased to say that that's one of your best-selling programs.
That's right, that's right.
So do you have any other ideas that you would like to develop into a program for the future?
Yes, perhaps the history of literary criticism. There are various things. The concept of the nation, I think, might be very interesting.
Wow. That's quite interesting.
Yes. Yes.
So, going forward, do you see there to be a much bigger role for distance learning in people's lives?
I think it's going to be the way of the future because people just can't afford the time and the expense to drop everything and just go full-time for their studies.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be the way of the future, yes.
And last question, what do you think is Warnborough's role in providing this?
I find Warnborough to be I find there's an air of enthusiasm. There's a very great entrepreneurial spirit. The staff, the students are really committed. I'm just very happy to be part of the Warnborough family.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dr.
It's been
Mazhar.
a pleasure. Thank you.